And captain isn't the right word. It's leadership. It's leadership. So can you lead from the bench? Can you lead in the locker room? Can you lead on the floor? And that's what we're looking for. And when we find guys who do it exceptional, then I make sure that they know they're valued for the leadership they bring in whatever area it might be.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. Today we are joined by the head boys basketball coach at Otsego High School in Michigan, Matt Dennis. After 4 years as the head coach at Kalamazoo Valley Community College, he spent the last 6 seasons at Otsego, where he's led the Bulldogs to 5 conference championships. Coach Dennis is a 4-time Conference Coach of the Year. He created the Coaching Lab as a resource for coaches who want more success in less time. Check it out at coachmattdennis.com. Before we hear from Coach, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast. Well, man, first of all, just thank you so much for giving up your time to talk hoops with me. I feel like you're one of those guys that I've just kind of known through social media and following you and some of the good basketball nuggets and ideas that you throw out. I just, from that, thought this is a guy I think I might like to talk hoops with a little bit.
Cool. Well, I put the stuff out there, and so you don't know who's going to see it. And it's something fun. And I got a Twitter message from a coach yesterday, about some team building stuff. And then I got one of last week about some camp stuff. And I mean, you throw it out there and every once in a while it sparks some interest and some conversation. So it's all good.
Yeah. I think your motivation is probably the same. Because I want to talk a little bit about coachmattdennis.com, the Coaching Lab newsletter and stuff that you do.
Sure.
But I think the motivation for you doing that is the same for me doing this. Like, I have no clue how many people will actually listen to it or whatever. and honestly, I mean, I care but don't care. It's a great opportunity for me to get better and to learn. And so, what you did inspired me from Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, to contact you up in Michigan, right?
Yeah,
and talk hoops. So you're doing something right. I mean,
awesome.
I've been paying attention. Yeah.
Well, good deal. I got one this week, so that's a win.
Right. Tell me a little bit about how long you've been doing your website, coachmattdennis.com, and kind of everything that you do with that.
Yeah, I first put it up in probably late 2018, is my guess, maybe early 2019, something like that. And what I found myself doing was just collecting all of these resources from coaches, and just I had this massive library of stuff. And so I decided I was going to kind of share it with people, and that's how it started. So I started a newsletter with it, and then the newsletter actually went into the paid membership side of things, where coaches can come in and get to they access all of that stuff. And it's grown since then. It's grown way more than what I had in the beginning. But then they can also access me. And so that's kind of how it started. And it's kind of it's love-hate isn't the right word, but it's it's one of those things that it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of effort to do it the way that I want it to be done, and to give the coaches the respect that they deserve, and to give them just the feedback that they want and stuff like that. So it's a labor of love, I guess, is the best way to put it. But I've enjoyed doing it ever since I threw it together. I enjoy doing the newsletter. The biggest thing that I struggle with is just being consistent with it.
Yeah.
Because I've also got, you have a family, I've got a full-time job, I coach a team and all of those things, but I do the absolute best I can, and coaches have a lot of grace and they understand that. So that's really, I guess, in the short version of, when it started and kind of what it is.
I think it's a really cool idea though, because there's so many, depending on your area, of where you're at in the country, there's so many coaches that you get to hear great people more in your area, that I'll never know about, or I'll never meet. And kind of the same thing down here. There's probably some coaches down here that, aren't big names all over the country, but man, they have great stuff. So your ability to kind of pull that information together, I mean, you just have no clue how many people you're actually helping out. And so I appreciate your effort with everything that you're doing there.
Well, thank you. I've had coaches say that you save me so much time in just finding the resources. Some coaches have used it. We play a team and they run a certain offense, and so we go in there and we look up the offensive stuff because we want to know how to combat what they're going to do. Other coaches are looking for new offensive ideas or new plays. We get a lot of youth coaches or dads or moms, really, even, that come in there and they're looking for drills to do with their community team that they're not necessarily coaching a high school team. So it's really been the whole gamut of experiences that go in there for a bunch of different reasons. I'd say that the ones that I enjoy the most are the ones that I get to interact with and get to have some back and forth with, that kind of thing. But those are specific too. Those are coaches who are looking for something very specific in what they want. And you don't necessarily need to meet with me to find a drill or to find out maybe how an offense is run, but there are other areas that you do. So it's all, every coach in a different spot, and it's just a place where they can go in and get what they need for the needs they have at that time.
One thing I love about the coaching community, and I don't necessarily know about other sports, I would imagine it's the same, but I definitely feel like in basketball, there is just this desire for fellowship and to help out other coaches and to have conversations like you and I are about to have.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's I don't know, it's just a special thing that we get to do, especially those of us, you're on the high school side too, as well, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like those of us that kind of go through that grind every day and have a meeting of parents right outside the door while we're, they're just, we can definitely learn a lot from each other.
Oh, certainly. And one thing, I don't know if I do a good enough job portraying it, on social media. You can only put so much on Twitter,
right?
But I run a free youth coaches clinic every year. So any coach in my area wants to come, anybody who ever emails me, whether they're part of the membership or not, I respond back with what it is that they're asking. The ones that I give a little more to, like I'll do videos for people who actually have the paid membership. So I might get a whiteboard out, draw it up for them, or walk them through something. So there is kind of that extra element. But if anybody emails me from around the country, I get back to them. And it is one of those things where I want to make sure that I'm serving the coaching community in the right way. And it's not all about, paying for something or making money or anything like that. But certainly there's also a lot of time and energy that goes into making a video or replying to everybody who gets to me. So there's that side of it, but try to do as much as I can in our community with our coaches, and not just Otsego, but in I say Southwest Michigan area. And I've spoke at clinics and things like that. So I try to give back as much as I possibly can when I'm available.
How does culture drive performance?
I really believe that there's two parts to it. One part is the team culture that you have, and the other part of it is the program culture that you have. So in the team part, everybody's going to have a different role and a different responsibility that they're going to have to, accept to make the team the best that it can be. So the guy who starts, who makes, scores a lot of points and everything, well, they always view themselves as being, I'm a player, I'm somebody who the team relies on to do these things, and they kind of fit themselves into that box right away. Yeah. So I think their perspective of culture is them probably playing well and leading us in the point column. But what about the kid that doesn't play very much? What do? And that's where we have to find ways as coaches to make sure that the sweat equity that they put in, the time that they put in, they're noticed too. Mm-hmm. So blending all of those things together can be a difficult thing for coaches to do. But that team culture, they all have to know that they have value. And we've done it. We've made bench captains, and usually it's one guy every year. But I tell him that I know you're doing your job when the ref is telling you to sit down.
Love that.
Because you are so into the game, and you are, timeouts, you're out there giving high fives the first first chance you get. When it's a great play, you're up waving the towel. Whatever it is, if you're in my way and I'm walking on the sidelines, and I got to say, hey, sit down for a second. You're doing your job just right.
I've never heard that before. I've never heard of having a bench captain before, and somebody that is actively policing. I almost look at the bench as they're one organism over there
Mm-hmm.
that I have to help them, all of them together. Which, not that we don't do that, but having a guy and giving him value and giving him almost something to do in that way. This has been worth it, man. So appreciate your time. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, that you hit it on the head. Is that they have to have value. And what does that player bring in terms of value to the team? And they go out and they work hard. They go out and they do everything that you've asked them to. They're getting the job done in the classroom, but they're not getting minutes on the floor because they don't have the same athleticism or they don't have maybe the same skill level.
Life's not fair. Yeah.
And it isn't, but you still have value to this team. You are still somebody that is respected, and you're somebody that can bring something. And what if it's attitude, it's energy, it's being that team captain on the bench. And we've had guys really buy into it. I mean, I sit down with them and I talk to them about it, and I don't tell them what to do. I just say, this is something nobody else brings to our team. You can bring it. So if this is a role that you'll accept, it's not going to make you play more or play less. It's not going to make you a better scorer or worse scorer. It's just something you can offer every single game that nobody else can do like you do.
Yeah.
And we've had guys really buy into it. We've done the same thing with captains in the locker room. We've done things. And captain isn't the right word. I know I'm getting on a little side tangent here. It's leadership.
Yeah.
It's leadership. So can you lead from the bench? Can you lead in the locker room? Can you lead on the floor? And that's what we're looking for. And when we find guys who do it exceptional, then I make sure that they know they're valued for the leadership they bring in whatever area it might be. Your sixth man has got to have great value. Why aren't they a starter? Because you lift us up when you get in the game.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that. Now, to answer the other side of it, what does a program culture do for us? The program culture is the lifeblood of your program. I mean, I'm at a relatively small school, and I know everybody can put a different number on that. We have 750 kids in our high school. Okay, I get the kids that come out. We have a couple of kids maybe that we have to cut each year to get our numbers down to roughly 12. But it's kind of what you get. Now, I teach at a high school that has 1,800 kids. So I teach at a different school than where I coach.
Oh, wow.
And they might have 60, 70 kids who are coming out for the team. I mean, way different.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, for us, we started at the youth program. Our culture starts at the youth program. We start to teach them with having our players involved, what the attitude is like in the program, what the effort is like in the program. Our kids volunteer in doing camps and doing leagues and different things for our youth. The middle school level, we build it up a little bit more. And now we get to the freshman level, and you're doing the basics of what I'm doing at the varsity level. And the JV, you're jumping up a little bit more. In the JV, we tell them, you're preparing to be a varsity player. So you've learned the basics last year. Now you need to start doing it with speed, with accuracy, with intensity, because the next jump, if you're not doing it at the JV level, the next jump is going to be too far for you to step in and compete. So we kind of map it out for the kids, but that whole thing, we want the elementary and the middle school kids to look to our varsity kids and be like, I want to be that someday.
Yeah.
I want to be the guy who gets to play on Friday night. Or in the girls program, I work great with our girls coach. He's a tremendous guy, and we have a lot of the same philosophy, and we do a lot of things together. And he's the same way. You want those young ladies looking up saying, I want to be like her.
Yeah.
And I think that when you do that, the kids want to be a part of the program. They want to get out in the park and play. They want to get in the driveway and play. They want to come to open gyms. And I probably hit on one of the other questions, but I want kids who want to be a part of things. And so we're going to build a culture that says, this is fun, this is exciting, this is where I want to be.
I love the culture that you're talking about, especially some of those words that you're using. Like, there's nothing wrong with basketball being fun.
Right.
And sometimes we allow success, our egos, other or ulterior motives, to zap the fun right out of the game.
Oh, for sure.
The continuity that you're talking about, especially with your terminology and your style of play from junior high up through high school, I think that's really important. And I don't want to skip over that. Having those kids learning what it means. What's your mascot?
We're the Bulldogs.
Yeah. What does it mean to play Bulldog basketball? It's kind of funny you said that. I grew up in Pennsylvania in a small town called Berwick, Pennsylvania, and we were the Bulldogs there. I grew up going to Berwick basketball camp and wanted to be a Bulldog. So when you say that, it's just a little special. But tell me, what are some things that you're doing to even help with your coaches? Because I've seen some programs where they all believe the same culture, but playing styles and teaching is drastically different from team to team.
I've really been blessed. I spent 9 years at the community college level, and then I have been in Otsego. Just finished my 6th season, and since both places, I had a great coaching staff. But when you jump to the high school side of things, it's different because they also have their own team while they're a part of the bigger program. So this year, my freshman coach, he played for me my first year in Otsego. So he went to college, graduated. He's now teaching at our middle school, and he jumped back in the program as a coach. Absolutely phenomenal to have somebody who has been in the program come back and coach for us.
Yeah.
So that helps in a big way. Now, it's unique. His dad is my JV coach, and he's been with me for 4 years now, I believe it is. Just finished his 4th year.
So those guys know the program pretty well.
Oh, they do. They know it. I value their opinion. We have the conversation that I want your ideas, I want your feedback, but ultimately, please understand that I have to make the final decision. Now, I give them a lot of leeway. I'm not telling you who to start on your team. I'm not telling you who gets the most minutes on your team. I have a philosophy that at the freshman level, the players deserve to get in the game, especially in the first half, I'd say, of the season.
I like that.
They need to get in the game more equally. It doesn't have to be equal, but give them a chance to go out there and enjoy what they can do. Towards the second half of the season, or maybe it's a rivalry game or something where it's a little bit more on the line, then the playing time is dispersed a little bit differently. That's part of competition and wanting to win. So that's a freshman level. The JV level is a little bit different. We want the kids to start to realize that not everybody has the same role. Not everybody has the same opportunity. And a lot of it depends on things like your skill, your athleticism, your work ethic, your attitude, more so than the freshman level. It's jumped up a little bit. And then at the varsity level, I start with my players beginning of every year, and we do kind of like a heads up, 7-up thing. I haven't put their heads on the table, and I say, guys, I want to win, you want to win. We know that. Okay. Now, what I want to know from you is you all want to play. I can play you all equal minutes if you'd like to, and we'll see where the things fall. I'm okay with that. You all work hard. You're going to be great, teammates to each other. You're going to have good attitudes. I know that from what I've seen so far. How many of you want to play equal minutes, and we'll just see how it works? And nobody's hand ever goes up. And then I say, all right, the flip side of that is I can play you the best way I know how. And I will substitute you at the appropriate time and give certain guys more minutes than others, because I think that's what's going to lead us to a victory and be competitive every night on the floor. If you want our team to be competitive every night and you trust me enough to do that, go ahead and raise your hand. And everybody raises their hand. So I start right away and let the guys know this. You're voting. If I had a team that said equal minutes, I would play them equal minutes.
Wow.
I mean, if they wanted,
you're willing to do that.
I am super comfortable with that. We had a team a few years ago that we only had 10 kids on the team. We subbed 5 for 5. They all didn't play equal, but pretty close. But I had 10 guys that were very similar to each other.
Yeah, that makes sense.
This year, I had a team of 7, 8 guys that could really get on the floor and do some stuff for us. And I had a group that wasn't quite ready yet. So their minutes were not dispersed the same. So just in my own evaluating the team, every year is different. But I want those players to know up front that this can go one of two ways. And if you're voting that you want me to sub people so that we're competitive and we have the best chance at winning, that means that we're going to have to sacrifice. And I can't tell you who it is, but we'll have to sacrifice.
I really like that way of getting their input and finding out kind of where they're at, but without, like, there's not a lot of peer pressure involved with a game like that because it's anonymous. Right. Like no one else will know what you feel and what you think, because you don't want to be the guy that sits there and says, "Hey, raise your hand if you want equal minutes," and doesn't raise his hand. You look like a punk,
right.
You know, and or if you say, if you want us to win, and the kid doesn't raise, like, so you give them a safe way to kind of share. It helps you to know where they're at. My question is with playing time, you mentioned your freshman JV level and kind of some of the policies you have there. How do you articulate that with your parents? Is that something, because I think some coaches only talk about playing time with their players,
sure,
and they're hoping that their players go home and share that philosophy with their parents. And we know as teachers that can get long.
Two sides to that, and this goes back to your original question about, developing the coaches and how you do that, is my freshman and JV coach are tremendous. They do a weekly email to the parents and to the players on Sunday nights. It's something that our JV coach started and worked really well. So it's not anything that I said you had to do this. He's been a teacher for 25 years, and he's a fifth grade teacher, and he's just like, these are things that we need to do to make sure that we can enjoy this season. Everybody can. So he started doing it. It's been phenomenal. They map out, like, they'll say, these are our starters for the game. These are the 2 or the 3 first subs based on what I've seen in practice. They also say, this is what we've worked on in practice this week. And based on what I've seen in these areas, some players are going to get more playing time. And that may mean we're not winning the game, but we worked on offensive rebounding, let's say, and a player did a great job in practice. He's doing a great job in the game, but the score isn't where we need it because scoring necessarily isn't his thing. Well, that was our focus for the week. So they usually give 2 or 3 focuses for practices. And then they say, I want you to know, this is what I'm looking for. I'm not looking at who the leading scorer was. I'm not looking at all these other things that you might be looking at in the stands. I'm looking at what we focused on in practice, because my coaches have the mindset that we're building for the varsity level. And that it's tremendous that we want to win. All of us do. But we want to make sure that our players are put in a position so when it counts the most, and that's when on the varsity floor, they have the best opportunity to win. All right. So that's kind of how they do it. And it works great. Now, how I do it is slightly different, because I want our players, and you saw in the mission and the vision statement that I sent out to you, communication is a huge thing for us. And players, you have to be able to communicate effectively with me and with your parents. So I could tell them everything I'm going to tell you, or this is a jump up in being a varsity basketball player. You need to be able to communicate with them as well. So we'll go over something, and give you another example. I used the analogy of a cancer and how a cancerous cell grows and eventually can kind of take over, in a person's body. And that can happen in a team as well. One person can act as a cancer and they don't like something, so they go complain to the person sitting next to them in the locker room. And by that person sitting there not saying anything, that means you're telling the person complaining you agree.
Yeah.
So your answer needs to be, hey, you need to talk to coach about it, or you need to say, I don't have any control over what you're doing. I understand what you're saying, but there's only one person who can help you with this, depending on what the subject matter is, But if you sit there in silence, then they're taking it as agreement. Now we've got 2 people. So our cancer grew. And now those 2 people can go and get a third and a fourth. And eventually you've created a division amongst the team. And we don't want that. Same thing can happen when we go home. You take something that you didn't like home with you and you just complained about it, or your parents take something that they didn't like and they're kind of putting it on you. And now you've got to figure out what to do. And that's a more delicate situation. But if they truly don't like something, you don't have control over your playing time. The coach does. So you need to come talk to the coach. Your parent can come in and talk to the coach. But you need to communicate that to them. You all voted that you wanted me to sub you the best way possible so that we can compete and have a chance at winning. You need to go home tonight and say, hey, coach had us vote today. We all voted that we're going to try to win every game. That means some guys aren't going to play as much as others. And that's what you need to communicate. So when we go to the meeting, they're not blindsided by this information. And I honestly, I don't have a lot of parent meetings. I know some programs really do. We do have them from time to time. But when I think it's important for a player to communicate with their parent, I tell them that this is what I want you to do tonight. I need you to go home. And then at the end of practice, I'll remind them, go home and tell your parent, this is what we talked about. Or coach said I'm not playing because of this. Yeah. They need to know that. And I'm not going to say it works perfect, but those are, I'm trying to grow them as young men. And those are conversations they need to learn to have.
Yeah, I love what you said about, talking about playing time with your players and help shaping that conversation and encouraging them to have that conversation when they go home. I was at a public school for 6 years before coming to Grapevine Faith, which is a private school. And at McKinney, I was younger. I had the philosophy of, listen, you don't have a right to talk about playing time. Parents, we're not going to discuss it. Players, I may discuss it with you, but parents, listen, if you come in and talk with me about your son, I'm all for it, but it's not going to be about that. And we know that every conversation, it's not about playing time. It gets back around
about
to
playing time. Yeah.
And so, but then I came to Faith where these kids pay to be here. And also I think maturing and listening to smarter coaches than me, I opened that up to, listen, if you guys want to talk about playing time, my door is open. I'd like for you both to be there, the parent and the player, to make sure that all of us are on the same page with it. But, it's amazing how opening that door, I really haven't had that many playing time conversations over the years. But, and I had a coach a few days ago that I talked to, gave a great, as a teacher, we will never tell a parent, I'll talk to you about your kid all day long, but I'm not going to talk to you about his grades. I'm not going to do that. Like, they would look at you like, what? Like, you can't do that. It's the same thing. And I feel like, I think a lot of coaches have gotten to the point now where they're past that old school of, hey, listen, playing time, true, you don't have control over it, but again, you do with some of your habits and the way that you handle yourself as a player. But we do need to be able to have those open conversations, just like we do with grades.
Yeah, the players certainly can influence their playing time.
Right.
And the coach has to decide to put them in or not, but they certainly have some influence in what goes on. And I tell in our parent meeting in the beginning of the year, I have a reason for everything I do. And if you want to know my reason, then we can set up a time to sit down. Just understand that my reason, you may not be in agreement with it.
Right.
So it might be, I'll give you a great example. I had a parent meeting one time with a parent came in and said, my son's averaging this many points, this many assists, this many rebounds. And they had, they're top on the team in these areas. And I said, that might be true. But what I'm looking at in our stats, and stats are I'm not an expert in that by any means, but I look at a few things. What's your son's turnover percentage? Okay, when they're involved in a play, that's important to me to know. Okay, what is we use the VPS score, so your value point score. What is their VPS score? All the good things divided by the bad things. That's the number one stat that I look at. So when a player comes up and say, how many points do I have, coach? I'll tell them, I don't know. But your VPS score was a 1.2, which is really good.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're not looking at we're looking at apples and oranges. We're not comparing apples and apples. Points are important, assists are important, rebounds are important. But in the grand scheme of things, when we put that VPS score together, we also find out how many fouls did you have? How many turnovers did you have? How many missed shots did you have? That gives me a clearer picture of what you did in your time in the game. And a parent, you're not going to have that because it'd just be too much to calculate during the game. So I'm always open to it. The first 2 years, I did not allow parents to do the playing time thing either. And then I actually just got thinking, I don't know what it was, but thinking about it, saying, every parent meeting I have is about playing time. And I know why they're not playing.
Yeah.
But since I opened that up, I think I've had less parent meetings
Yeah. And I think those conversations are not just helpful to give clarity to the player and the parent. I think they're also good markers for us. Like, do we really know why we're doing the things that we're doing? Because some of the best moments I feel like I've had is when I've told a parent, you know what, last game, I made a mistake. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really have a good reason why I didn't play him. You know, that in that moment, the group I had, you know, like, I don't think it's bad to allow them behind the scenes a little bit and to see the fact that we do struggle and we are trying to do our very, very best, but golly, we don't expect perfection out of our players.
Right.
To expect perfection out of me or our coaches, that's tough.
The Jamodi podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
But the next thing,
Sure.
this is one of my favorite questions to ask, and because I get so many great things that I can steal. Or borrow? That's when one coach said, he said, "Don't say steal, say borrow." What's your favorite culture building activity?
Well, for our program, it ends up being a team and a program thing. We do what's called the Bulldog Games. We tend to do it over Christmas break, or if we have a bye game somewhere, in January, we'll do it then as well. But we take all three levels, freshman, JV, and varsity, and we bring them in the gym and we play this minute to win it style games. And at the end of each of these silly little contests, there is some basketball related piece. They have to seal it with a free throw. They've got to make a layup, a free throw, and a 3-pointer in that order first. So the games are simple, and they take 30 seconds to a minute to do, and then they've got to do this basketball thing. We keep track of their points. So it takes us roughly an hour to get through it all. Every kid participates on every team. So the games don't take any skill, so it doesn't matter. If you're the leading scorer or you're the guy who doesn't get in the game, everybody can do these silly little things. And the guys compete and they go hard. They cheer for each other like crazy. And at the end, it's everybody competed against each other. We all had a good time. The varsity team hasn't lost yet. So they've been champions every year, but our freshmen really, I think they only lost by maybe 1 or 2 points this year. So it was super close, but that just made it so much fun. And it's a way for everybody in our program to be a part of something. And you can't scrimmage the teams together.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
It makes no sense to do that. Skill competitions doesn't make sense to do that either. There might be a kid here or there at something, but overall, everybody can't be involved in that in the same way. So this is what we came up with. I made this silly little trophy that we hand out to the winner, and we take their picture, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, I'm going to push because I like to create the Lion Games, which is here. So if you can, if you don't mind, what are the Bulldog Games?
There's usually about 15 different games we do.
Okay.
And they're everything from, you get a straw and you've got 10 M&Ms on one end of the table, and you've got to use your straw to deliver them to the cup on the other end of the table. So there's no basketball, anything in that. Once you get all 10 of them delivered, you pick up the ball, you throw it to your teammate. Your teammate's got to hit a free throw. First team to get that done. Now we have 3 tables set up at the end of the gym. So there's a freshman table, a JV table, a varsity table. They all start on the whistle. I'll blow the whistle. Usually my JV coach keeps track of the points. So first place gets 3 points, second's 2, third place is 1.
Okay.
And then once they do that, I have a list of all the kids' names. So I'll call out 3 more kids, or maybe it'll be something where I need 4 kids. So one that we do is a cup stacking game. So they have to stack the cups up and bring them all down. As soon as they get them all down, they have to get 3 other teammates, or be 2 other teammates, and make a pyramid. You have to be on that pyramid for at least 3 seconds to win. So again, nothing to do with basketball, but it's fun. We've got another one that comes to mind right away is I've got a piece of bread and I put peanut butter on it, and I put one guy at the free throw line, one guy at the baseline, and they've got to throw 5 ping pong balls and catch as many as they can on this this peanut butter bread. As soon as they do that, they got to grab a ball. they sprint to the other end, and they've got to make a basket by bouncing it off the floor first. So you've got to bounce it off the floor and into the hoop. So this year, one of our seniors was like, I do this in practice every day, coach. I've got this. Like, this is my game. And so I was like to the team, are you okay with him doing it? Because he was not the guy who was supposed to do it. And they were all like, yeah, he does it all the time. He lost. I mean, he was third place. He couldn't get the ball in the hoop. But it was just a lot of fun. So there's these roughly 15 games, and I can send you a copy of.
Okay, I was going to ask you.
So you can see it.
I was going to try to be cool and say, there may be some other coaches that want the list of games, but I want them. So if you don't mind, I'll be asking you, and then at the end of this talk, we'll get your contact info because
you can see all the games. There's probably over 20 of them listed. I don't use every one every year. I kind of pick them. Just I guess based on how I feel more than anything. We try to keep it to an hour. What I don't give you is, because this is something I've sent out through my email for my website, is I don't give you what the basketball thing is at the end all the time. You have to come up with that.
Okay.
So do you want kids to do seal it with a free throw, make 3 consecutive shots, speed dribble down and back's another one. I try to pick things that I know kids have a chance at doing, no matter if you're a freshman or you're varsity level.
I don't put from 3.
Right. Yeah. No, there's no dunks. I mean, there's not like you got to dunk it, anything like that. There is some subjectivity to what your team can do there, but the games are all there, and you can look at them and be like, this sounds cool or whatever. I actually post a video of it. And I can send you a link to that too. Every year we post a little highlight video of it. So the parents.
Where's that at?
So
is that on your Twitter? Or
I have posted it on Twitter. I think it's on my my YouTube channel as well. I'm pretty sure I got a couple years of it.
Same name, Coach Matt Dennis on YouTube.
Yeah, it's a coaching lab. So if you go to coaching lab on YouTube, that's where you're going to find. And I've got lots of videos on.
What daily habits set you up for success?
Well, every day it looks a little bit different. As working at a school or whatever. I'm going to go back here real quick. One of the things I sometimes get frustrated with in listening to coaches, especially at the college level, on all the other podcasts and stuff, is that's their full-time job. They do that all day. And I'm not frustrated like they're doing anything wrong. I'm frustrated with how can I use that information? And I can't always use it. It's a great idea, but you have a full-time job. You've got 3 student managers. You've got 3 assistants. Like I can't do that stuff. So my every day looks different, being in the classroom and then driving from where I teach to the community I live in and where I coach. But to answer your question, when I'm thinking about practice and I'm setting up my practice plan for the day, I always go to what are 3 things that we need to get better at. The beginning of the year, the list is so long because we're trying to put everything in that it makes it tough. But I try to not do too much. So what are 3 things? As the season progresses, those 3 things become more obvious. We're not a very good offensive rebounding team, or we turn the ball over too much in transition. So I can pinpoint those a little bit easier. But I found that if I try to do everything, I almost do nothing because I've focused on too much. So if I can limit it to 3, and every once in a while it gets into 4, but I know I'm going to accomplish something and we're going to get better that day. So that's the first thing that I do with my practice plan is ask that. And that's really a performance-based thing. What does the team need to do to improve their performance? The second thing is we always have what I call a pre-practice meeting. It really starts our practice, but we meet in our team room. And the team room has been everything from the locker room to a teacher's classroom to we actually have a team room at our school, but it's not always available to us. I mean, it doesn't matter what you have at your school. It's this place that you're going to meet. I try to do it outside of the gym though. I just try to stay out of it. And that meeting usually lasts 20 to 30 minutes. So my practices tend to run around 2.5 hours. We would do about 20 to 30 minutes of what I call pre-practice, and then we get 2 hours of gym time. So that's kind of how it starts, and it fluctuates as the season goes. But in those pre-practice meetings, we will sometimes take all that time to do team building. Sometimes we take all of it. We watch film. We look at stats. Sometimes I talk about things that have nothing to do with basketball. If there's something going on in the world that I think is important, if there's a certain event going on that we need to be aware of at our school, we make sure that we're all on the same page. Now, I do tend to take the final few minutes of it to make sure that I go over what we're going to do in practice. These are areas we need to improve on. This is what I want you to make sure that you're mentally focused on when we step in the gym. So they've kind of heard it once, and now we're going to go do it. But every day is a little bit different. It's not always all film. It's not always all team building. It's something that's going to be different. But that's that's team-based for me. So we've got the performance-based stuff. We've got the team-based with our pre-practice meetings.
Before you go on to the third one, I think you dropped the nugget there really quick, and kind of went past that. I want to revisit is you can't do everything, and I think that is one danger of listening to every podcast, reading every book, going to every clinic, with the idea of how do I fit all of this into what we do. And I think there's a part of like the art of coaching, but then also give ourselves a break. And if there's something that fits in with the culture that you've already established, a small tweak, a small enhancement that can add a lot of value, that's kind of what we're looking for. A complete overhaul or cramming everything from a podcast session into what you do, you might end up getting really frustrated and not achieving very much at the end. And so I think that was a great nugget. I'm a high school, like you, I even feel sometimes that way with college coaches and all the resources and time that they do have, all the things they get to do. Like, I love that. I love the experience that their players have, and having people to rebound them and all the film that they can use in different ways, like just basically throw it up on a wall. It's there, and I'm thinking, okay, but I think that way sometimes even about some high school coaches around here that I have no full-time assistants at school with me. They're all part-time. So like second period athletics, we get 43 minutes. It's me and 20 dudes. And I have to do my very, very best through that time. So I think all that to say, you're right on the money with take bits and pieces, take the Bulldog Games, take these three things you're talking about, but don't feel like you ever have to completely throw everything out.
No, you've got to make it your own and fit your personality, and you can't take everything somebody else does. So like the Bulldog Games, for example, if that's something that doesn't fit, if you're 100% competitive, everything's got to be basketball related.
No fun.
That's silly. Then you wouldn't use it.
Right.
If you can take an hour out of your season and say, we're just going to have fun with these guys, we're going to let the seniors get to know the freshmen get to know the seniors and compete a little bit, then it's worth your time. So you got to take definitely what fits for you. And I think that's true with your offense and defense too. Yeah. There are good aspects of the pack line defense. There's good aspects of the 2-3 zone, the 1-3-1, full court presses, or like we run the forced baseline defense. They all have good parts to them, and coaches win with each one of those. Yeah. But nobody wins doing all of those things.
Yeah, jack of all trades, but master of none. I feel like coaches are really guilty of that. What's your third thing out of your practice planning?
The third thing I do, and it's just stepping back, and it's just something I mentally do, is I step back and ask myself, what am I missing? If I allow myself to get so entrenched in our last game, win or lose, if I allow myself to get so wrapped up in a parent meeting or a player issue that might be going on, I need to ask myself, what am I missing? Am I missing a life lesson that can be taught here? Am I taking things too serious and I'm not treating these kids like high school kids? I'm treating them like they're NBA players or they're major college players. And I just want to make sure that I center myself enough to know that these are high school kids. I've got kids who play 3 sports.
Yeah.
Basketball is not their first sport. I don't get to go hand pick every single kid. I get the kids who come out. I don't recruit to come into my program. When I coached in college, I did. I had a choice. Do I want to recruit them or not? And I could have all of these kids come on visits and talk to their parents and offer them scholarships and do whatever. And basketball was their one love, their main thing that they wanted. In high school, I got an offensive lineman. I got a pitcher on the baseball team. They like basketball, but it's not their first love. There's other things that they're going to go after. And I've got to make sure that I keep that in perspective. So I ask myself a lot, what did I miss? And I do the same thing when I watch a game film too. All right, the game, this is how it went. I know everything that I saw during the game. What didn't I see? And that's where my assistants can come in and really help me out, because they see different things. And when I say assistants, I do want to clarify, because you said, you don't have any full-time assistant. I have one assistant coach. It's my dad. He drives up. He drives about a half an hour every day to get here for practice. I absolutely love it.
That's big time.
He gets to be in the gym. My boys, who aren't quite old enough to be in high school yet, are in the gym quite often. My daughter plays on the girls varsity team. And so he gets a chance to see all of them, and we absolutely love it. And then I have my freshman JV coach, who love being a part of the program. But they give their time to sit on the varsity bench. They come into my practices from time to time. They're not there every day. They've got, a family, or they've got other obligations once their practice is over. So I use what I have, and I do the very best I can with it. But so I just want to make sure that everybody knows there are schools that have 2 paid assistants. There are schools that pay their assistant coaches more than I get paid as the head coach here. And they're in high school. I get that, but this is what I have, and this is what I'm going to do the best with right now, right here where I can.
I would think that I don't know stats or anything, but the majority of coaches kind of have what you have or what I have, not we hear about some of those programs that have a lot, but you're right. We have to steward what we have and do a great job with that. And I think you nailed it. Perspective. With our players, like the realization that they don't all want to play college basketball, that hit me hard when I was younger. And when I heard that for the first time, I was like, well, then what are you here for? Why are you doing it? In fact, our best player to ever come out of Faith, he hit 439 threes in his 4 years, it's a lot, and scored 2,700 points. After his sophomore year, I asked him, hey, where are you thinking of going and playing in college? He said, I don't want to play in college. And it's like he just punched me in the gut. But at the end of the day, I think we really got to honor those players that just want to be great in the moment and don't have aspirations to do more, and value their time and help them to know that we're okay with that decision as well.
Well, we had that this year. I'm glad you brought that up. We had a young man who just grew leaps and bounds. Last year he averaged 3 points a game. This year he averaged 17 points a game. And they did a story on him in the paper here and everything. And it was phenomenal that he got recognized. He put a ton of hard work in the summer in the weight room and getting in the gym, all that stuff. And I asked him one day, Jacob, what are you thinking about doing next year? You want to play somewhere? And he said, I really thought about it too much, coach, but I don't think so. I was like, that's okay. If you change your mind, you let me know. I'll be happy to contact some coaches. I've had a couple who have inquired about it. That's why I'm asking you. And at the end of the year, we talked again, and he's like, I think I just want to go to college and just experience that. And I said, Jacob, I want you to know that doesn't disappoint me at all.
Yeah. Like,
you did a phenomenal job. You put everything you could into it. And just knowing that you want to be a student, and maybe you'll play intramurals or you'll do something, something else, that's perfectly fine. You have to know you. And this sounds like the right decision. So, and I said that at our banquet too, because we have another young man who is going to play in college, and that's his dream. And that's phenomenal as well. You go pursue it. Jacob's reason for not playing is a good decision for him. Ashton's reason for continuing to play is because that's what drives him. And both are great. You have to understand who you are and what you want.
Yeah. I think when we see these players that truly they know the direction that they want to go. I think the hardest thing for coaches when you see a kid flip-flopping back and forth.
Yeah.
That's I thought you said you wanted this. I've been working over here to help you get.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't. You said you didn't want this. Now those are the ones we really got to come behind, but then celebrate those kids that, like the one I was talking about, Dalton, who finished in such a great way. After our final game, we lost in playoffs. He tweeted out, which he didn't tweet. He wasn't on social media very much, but he tweeted out, "I loved every second of it. I have no regrets." And like that's it. You know, when
That's
you're
it.
talking
That's
with
right.
when you're talking with your players, when you're talking with parents, and parents, what do we want for our kids? That we want them to have no regrets when they're
Yep.
done. And then so using stories like your two guys and stories like Dalton, I think that can help players also.
Definitely. We don't want to put them in a box. We want to be there to support them, help them in any way that we can. And that's through, for some kids, you know, I've written so many scholarship recommendation letters this year. That's how I can best support them. You were part of our program. You gave us everything you possibly could. And just because we're not in season anymore, I don't forget about you.
Yeah.
I'm still here to help and support you in whatever way I can. Sometimes that's calling a college coach, and sometimes that's writing a letter of recommendation. Just whatever I can do for that kid.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Biology. What's your BSA score? The Biology Skill Assessment is the only verified skills metric endorsed by the NIA and NJCAA to discover and develop the best talent for your team. This 10-minute, 100-shot test can be taken for free today on the Biology mobile app. Elevate your game.
What's one of the things that makes your program different?
I think that I don't know the right, when I wrote this too, I don't know the right way to put it, but I think it's that winning doesn't drive us. We want to win games. Everybody does. If you're a competitor, you want to win games. But I think if winning is what you're after, then you sell everybody else. You sell your team short. So we have a mission and a vision statement that we use. And sometimes I think coaches can make those, even businesses can make those, and then they forget about them.
Yeah.
But when I've had parent meetings, even meetings with coaches in the past, and I say, are your actions or was what you're talking about supporting the same mission and vision that I have for our program? Because I take those things seriously. So the mission that we have is to build young men of character who are built for others and strive for excellence on and off the court. If you're not getting it done in the classroom the way that you should, then that's going to be that's not following the mission. If I'm allowing you to cut corners, I'm not building a young man of character. If I'm allowing you to get away with something, not holding you accountable. But at the same time, I also have to reinforce the behaviors that you're portraying in the right way and the things that you're doing good. I need you to know that I value that and I respect that and I see it. So the vision that we have is that all members of our program are going to compete, and that they're going to be able to communicate effectively, and they're going to be able to show integrity. And the same thing, I've got to be able to look people in the eye. I've got to be able to look my players in the eye and tell them that this is what we do in our program. And if I let you get away with things, or if I don't do that in the proper way, then I think just teaching you basketball skills or just winning games is selling you short on what life is going to bring at you. So in all of those things, I want us to have success. I want us to win games. But ultimately, if I follow that mission and that vision that I have for each player in our program, I think we're going to win games.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, we have. We've won a lot of games. We've had a lot of kids going to college. They've won a lot of accolades. But my message never is, if we don't win the conference, if we don't get ranked in the state, if we don't whatever, this isn't a successful year, this is a failure, that kind of thing. We go out and say, look, this is what we have to do. And if you do these things, you're going to compete at a high level. You're going to have a chance to win games. I can't guarantee it, but you'll have a chance to win games. And if we do that, we're going to have a lot of fun this year. But it all goes back to those two statements. And I'm not willing to waver on those, quite honestly. When I first took the job here, I asked the interview committee what their definition of success was for me.
That's a great question.
Because at the end of most interviews, you're given the opportunity. Are there any questions you want to ask us? And people say, well, no, I think I'm good. And I had a couple of them. And one is, what's your definition of success for the basketball program? because I have been places and talked to coaches where at the high school level, it's win or go home. If you can't win here, then we don't want you. And I'm not that kind of coach. If you look at my track record, I've won a lot of games, and there's been chances to play in championship events, and it's great. But that's not what drives me. And if that's the only thing I'm evaluated on, I'm not sure we're going to be a good fit. So thankfully, I have great administration at Otsego. We've had a lot of community support, a lot of parent support. But I am not afraid to go back to those two things and say, this is what we've stood for from day one, and this is what we'll continue to stand for. And that may mean that your kid sits a little bit more because they didn't hold the standard that we have. And that's something you got to recognize about me and the program that we've built.
I think that's a great question to ask in the interview process, but I'm also thinking about, more of a rhetorical question like that in a parent meeting, almost, and also helping to shape your parent expectations for parents. Like, what does it look like? Let's just imagine if we can go 3 or 4 months ahead, and we want to look back and say this was a successful season. What does that look like to you? What does that mean?
Well, I've asked that question the last couple of years because of COVID and not being able to get together. Some of the parents' meetings have been virtual. This year, we were actually able to get back together to do it. But in the past, I've had parents fill out a little questionnaire. And if your son or daughter doesn't play as many minutes as you would like them to, can they still have a successful season? And I just leave it open ended. What's one thing that I should know about your son or daughter in terms of who they are as a person that I can help them continue to grow? That has nothing to do with their basketball skill. So I ask for those things, and it's not a way to put it back in a parent's face or anything.
Right.
If we have a meeting or whatever, but it's to find out information is, hey, I just sat here and told you what I think success is and how we're going to do it. But ultimately, certain players are going to play more than other players. Certain players are going to score more points, all that stuff. So how can I make this a successful season for you and your child if your child is not one who gets to play all the minutes and start the games? And then I review them. I actually I've never used it in a parent meeting, but I have reviewed them throughout the year. Right.
Yeah.
But I review it to make sure that this is something that we want our son to understand or to learn. And I try to make sure that I incorporate that into those pre-practice meetings and put life perspective to things.
All of this to say, whether it's your mission statement, vision statement, your culture, this is the time for as coaches us to reevaluate. And you mentioned it. If we say this, are we actually doing it? If we have these words on our wall, do we actually live by those words? Because how many signs, pillars, culture, quotes do we throw out there, but there's no follow-up? Your players don't know it or believe that it's actually what you're about or the program's about. I think this is the time. Right. And you've been asking, you've kind of mentioned throughout our talk that you ask those questions of yourself a lot. And I think that's brilliant.
But it's having some self-reflection and also being willing to listen to other people is huge. I have a great respect, for my JV coach, taught for 25 years, hadn't coached basketball other than at the youth level before I hired him. And he was a freshman coach for a couple of years, and now he does a JV job. But he has kids that are grown and in college, and the one who's coaching with us now. But he has different life experiences than I do. And he's older than I am. My kids are all still in grade school, but it's me valuing his opinion and his life experiences that help me step back and say, all right, am I looking at this the right way?
Yeah.
And I think it's important for coaches to do that. The other thing is, it's not my way or the highway. There are certain things that we certainly want to be on the same page with, but I think I have the ability. I like to believe I have the ability to say, I'm wrong, or that's a better idea than the one I had, and then switch directions a little bit. And if we get stuck in a rut as coaches, that can really hurt us. because we're not willing to change, we're not willing to listen, we're not willing to whatever. And I guess it goes the opposite way too. If you listen to everybody about everything, then it goes back to that. What are your 3 things that we can get better at in practice today? Can't do them all.
Yeah.
So we can't listen to everybody's ideas. So it's, probably a balancing act there, but that's certainly something I do is a lot of reflection.
What are the off-season expectations for your players?
The reason I picked this as one of those questions when I saw the list was, this is something I've had a lot of conversations about lately because we're getting into that off season. And the expectation is really more for our coaching staff than it is for the players. The expectation is that we offer opportunities for the players to get better. And if we're offering those opportunities, hopefully the players want to be a part of them. But I think we've built something here where kids want to be a part of our program. They want to be in the gym. They want to get in the weight room. Now, not every single kid does, but there's a culture here that kids, they're excited about being in the basketball team, and they know to get to that point, to wear the jersey, they've got to put in the time. So whether it's opening the weight room or opening the gym up for shooting or open gyms or who knows what it is. We run a team camp here every summer because I want my guys in the gym. No kid ever misses our team camp in town. Some kids, I'm going to be on vacation this week or that week. But when it comes to our team camp right here, they're all there.
So you host it?
So we host it. Yep.
Yeah,
it's just
nice.
It's just a 2-day event. We keep it small on purpose. But the reason that I do it is because I want my guys to be in the gym. And I know if I do it here, they're going to be in the gym. It's not going to be a transportation issue. There's no money issue because there's no money involved in it. You just got to show up. Yeah. So to your question is, what are the expectations? The expectation is that we offer you opportunities to get better. And that if you truly want to do something special here, if you want to be a part of this, that you'll take advantage of those opportunities. I am not a coach that will guilt a player into it. I will not use fear-based approach to get them in there. I want to work with the kids who want to be there. And that it's different. And I mentioned this earlier, the college game, it was different because those kids, you're giving them scholarship money. There's a certain level of how committed are you at that level, that at the high school level. If you got to pick between my basketball open gym or your baseball workout, and baseball is your number one sport, baseball's going to win.
Yeah.
I mean, that basketball is going to lose. I don't hold that against a kid. Well, you didn't come to any workouts because you did all the baseball stuff. I don't have that luxury. I don't have enough athletes. I don't have enough players, that kind of thing. So I want kids to want to be.
That's a healthy way to look at it, though, too, is giving them opportunities to do everything. But I think how many of us will say that, but then either with our tone or making some type of comment that is guilting them if they're not there. And this whole answer that you had, I think, kind of takes it full circle back to the very beginning when it has to do with culture. If it is a culture that they want to be a part of, you have a better chance of them coming to things that are optional or that they have the opportunity to be there or not be there. And so it's a good evaluation if you have these opportunities in the spring and no one's showing up, check your culture and reevaluate some things that you're doing. And then if you do have a healthy culture and you have these opportunities and no one's showing up, be okay with it, that the decisions that they're making, it may be they have something better that they're doing at that moment.
Well, and that's the last part right there is it. I have kids in the spring who play on travel basketball teams. Phenomenal. They're practicing once or twice a week. They're playing on the weekends. They have a ball in their hands. And people say, I hear coaches, complain about the AAU or this or that. And I don't. They might run a different system. They might ask the player to do something different than I will, but ultimately they're getting better at basketball.
Yeah, man, he never comes to my open gym after school. What's he doing? I think he's got select practice. He's playing, right?
He's playing, and that's what we want. And I have kids who go to the local gym in town. They don't go to the school weight room to work out. Am I mad at them? No, you're working out. So we do the best we can, but we also understand, and as a parent with kids, I get this, is if they can't drive, they're not the ones who are deciding whether they can go to that workout or not. A lot of times it's based on their transportation. I try to make sure that money is never a factor for our kids to participate in things. We're running a camp. We've had a shooting coach come in and work with our players. Our rules only allow us to work with 4 kids at a time in the spring. But if we bring in a shooting coach outside of our program, they can work with as many kids as possible. That's a chance. A Sunday afternoon, you come in and get better, and you're not listening to me.
Yeah.
But if you can't afford it, the program will make sure that you get in there. So we make sure that that's never an issue as well. So we offer them as many opportunities as we possibly can, but understand that they have things going on. And I have 3 kids. I have things going on too.
Yeah.
I can't be in the gym every second of the day. And we just have to understand that. But it all goes back to, I think our kids want to be there. They want to get better. We've had a lot of success. So the formula that we've put together has worked. And I think we have a lot of promise in our upcoming classes. So I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. So we'll keep it rolling as long as we can, doing what we're doing.
Coaches, the one thing that every team needs is confident shooters. The last 8 years at Grapevine Faith, our teams have averaged 354 made threes each season. I love getting to share with coaches how our shooters train and, more importantly, how they think. If you would like to enhance your shooting culture at your school, contact me directly at jamodipodcast@gmail.com.
Coach, the speed round, it'll allow me to get to know you even better than I do now. So first question, favorite ice cream flavor?
Chocolate peanut butter.
Nice. That is a good one. Hard to find now, I find.
I grew up in a vacation town, and so I mean that's my go-to. If I had to pick a number 2, it's sea salt caramel.
Yeah, that's good.
So, but I ate a lot of ice cream growing up. So
Brahms used to have a really good chocolate peanut butter sundae, and they stopped it because something happened with the peanut butter. I got some people. I don't know. For high school, shot clock or no shot clock?
I'd love to have a shot clock, but I understand the challenges that it's going to bring, not only to the schools, but also to the coaches. Some coaches, I've coached with it, so I know what challenges it brings in the college level. I think some coaches say they want it, but there's a lot of adapting you're going to have to do to be good with it.
That's good. Texting or talking?
Prefer to talk to people, but this generation, texting, I'm okay with. I don't get mad at them about it.
You got to meet them where they are, Coach.
That's right.
Favorite holiday?
Ooh, it's got to be Christmas.
Invisibility.
I love it.
Invisibility or super strength?
Probably invisibility. I don't know. I've ever been asked that question.
If you could travel back in time, what period would you go to?
Ooh. Wow, that's a tough one.
You can pass if you want.
Yeah, Abraham Lincoln comes to mind. I think
Nice.
He did so many amazing things. So I'd go back to his short presidency and just to see how he did things, because he was transformational in a lot of ways during that time period.
That's a good one. Favorite place to travel?
I haven't traveled too much, but I love just northern Michigan. The Great Lakes are tremendous. So anywhere where there's a lake, a body of water, I love it.
You're there.
And I love the lake more than the ocean. So I'd have to pick somewhere here in Michigan.
I'm going to ask you, why do you like the lake more than the ocean?
Mainly because I'm more comfortable with it. I don't know what's in the ocean. That's part of it.
Is there a great white underneath me right now?
You don't know what there's not too many things in Lake Michigan that are going to harm you too much. The beaches are certainly nicer at the ocean, but I knowing what's in the lake is more comforting to me. Awesome. So I'd go with that's the reason.
2 more. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
I don't drink coffee.
Man, so there's so many coaches that don't drink coffee.
Yeah, I do drink tea
in
the morning, mainly because I like to have something warm, especially in a cold Michigan winter. But yeah, I've never been able
energy
to
drinks, nothing like that.
No, and just a fun fact for everybody, I don't drink pop either.
No pop or soda.
No, I haven't had that in probably 25 years.
Wow, man.
Tea and water are my go-tos.
Tea and water. All right, last one, probably the most important. Godfather or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
You answered that so quick, and I have been feeling the Force with you, I think, the whole time.
Oh, tremendous. Well, good. I'm glad. I'd rather you feel the Force than I'm not sure which word we're going to use to describe the Godfather, but I'm glad I'm not there.
Coach, this was awesome, and it's really fun when, again, you get to just follow somebody through the 126 characters that they're able to put out on Twitter, and you don't really know them at all, but you feel like from kind of what you read and what you see that you might be aligned in some things and want to learn from them more. And it's really fun when, man, getting to talk with you, like, it was awesome, and I just appreciate your time so much.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that we were able to connect on this, and hopefully coaches find some value in it. And like we said before, if they get one or two nuggets that they can use, then perfect. Go ahead, use it, make your team better, make your program better. That's what it's all about.
Real quick, tell us a little bit about the website and then ways that they can connect with you.
Sure. Well, the best way to connect with me really is on Twitter. That's where I spend most of my time, just at Coach Matt Dennis. And you can send me a message through there or just reply to any tweets or anything that I have there. But my email is matt@coachmattdennis.com. So you can connect with me through email as well. I do have a website, coachmattdennis.com, and it's really a resource that coaches can go and just learn from what's on the website if they would like, or if they want to be part of the membership. There's lots of basketball resources, videos, PDFs. You have access to me in a little different way than just seeing me on Twitter and stuff, so they can do that. Had coaches from all over the country and actually from a few other countries be a part of that. So it's a lot of fun to interact with them and see how the game is different in different areas.
That's awesome. Well, Coach, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.